Hi everyone, welcome to tonight's webinar. We're just going to give it a minute or two just to let everyone join and then we'll kick off. Okay, perfect. I think we've a good few in there now, so I think we'll kick off now. So hi everyone, welcome to tonight's webinar. My name is Katie and I'm on the communications team here at SIMS. And tonight I'm joined by Sophie Pratt, our registered dietitian. Sophie is based down in the Canta Clinic in Carlow and she works quite closely with us for any patients looking to optimise their diet, work on their BMI and to improve their nutrition going through their fertility journey. So thank you, Sophie, for coming tonight to join us and give your presentation on nutrition and fertility. So no I just wanted to give a really, thank you. I just wanted to give everyone a really brief intro into SIMS as well, in case you're from a different clinic or you're not aware of us to date. So SIMS is one of the largest fertility clinics in Ireland. We've been established since 1997 and we have three main clinics that carry out the procedures and the treatments in Cork, Clonskeagh in South Dublin and Swords in North Dublin. And with that, we have 4 satellite clinics across the country in Carlow, Limerick, Dundalk, and we've just opened a new satellite in Wexford as well. With that, we do a range of fertility treatments and investigations, and within that as well, we do genetic testing as well, and more of the advanced fertility treatments as well. So with that, I just want to hand over to Sophie, who's going to take you through tonight's webinar around nutrition and fertility. And throughout the webinar as well, if anyone has any questions, down the bottom of the screen there's a Q&A box. So please feel free to pop them in and we will answer the questions at the end of tonight's webinar.
Thanks a million, Katie. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophie Pratt, as Katie said, a registered dietitian. So tonight I am just going to run through, it is really, really broad, guys, but obviously if you want to touch base later on, we can and go into detail individually in terms of appointments, but tonight's I'm just going to keep it brief in terms of nutrition and fertility. Okay, so number one thing, guys, often when we think of fertility health, we for some reason bypass our nutrition, our diet, but it is absolutely key. Okay, so if you take nothing else away from tonight, please do have a look at your diet. Okay, so let's kick off. Okay, there's numerous factors, numerous factors in terms of nutrition that contribute to fertility health. Okay, you can see there, obviously diet being the most important one. We'll discuss that in detail later on, but weight, exercise and stress are also key components. Okay, so we don't want to dwell on weight too much. Yeah, it's something that is absolutely a factor. We don't want to dwell on it because obviously it is quite sensitive. But at the same time, we can't get away from the fact that it does contribute to our fertility health status. Okay, so if we look at it here, both being underweight or overweight can have a negative impact on our fertility health. So our kind of optimal body mass index, BMI, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that before, but basically it is the relationship between your height and your weight. Okay, so there's a certain BMI range that we would like everyone to be in terms of optimizing your health, physical health, mental health, fertility health. And that is there, guys, as you can see, between 20 and 24.9. Okay, so obviously being underweight, it does have its kind of I suppose, detrimental effects on fertility health as well as just general health. But both then overweight and obesity also can contribute to detrimental effects. Okay, so you can see, guys, I'm just going to quickly run through the ranges there for anyone who is unaware. We have underweight being 18.5 or less. So obviously you can see there's a little bit of a kind of gap between the 18.5 and the 20. Realistically, if we're talking about the exact range, anything between 18.5 and 24.5 is healthy, okay? But when we're talking fertility health, we don't really want to go below 20, okay? So 20 to 24.9 is the optimal. Overweight then, 25 to 29.9, and we have the classes of obesity there below that, okay? So there are 3 classes of obesity. Obviously, the more obese we are, the greater the risk of chronic diseases as well as obviously fertility health issues. So it is mindful, we should be mindful about how to go about optimizing our weight. Obviously, there are certain factors that contribute to weight. Okay, obviously the food is one factor, but there are so many, and that can be the tricky thing. Okay, so obviously we can look at our food, we can look at our exercise, we can look at kind of the medications, we can look at loads of things that can contribute to that. So it's not just nutrition alone, and the support is there if necessary. But as overweight and obesity is the most common that I see in clinic, I'm just going to show you the detrimental effects in terms of fertility health. Okay. All right, so a couple of things, guys, a couple of fancy words here. Don't worry about it too much, but it is just basically to show us that there is, I suppose, bad effects of kind of excess weight in terms of the fertility health. The most common one that we would talk about probably is the insulin resistance. Okay, you probably have heard of that again, but up there it can lead to, I suppose, irregular menstruation for women. Then we have the increased leptin levels. Okay, so that is basically fat, and it can affect ovulation, fertilization. Below that, then regular periods, hyperandrogenemia, if I could say it properly, and it can cause kind of issues there in women with regards to the menstruation again. Below that there, a couple more, guys, but obviously we don't want to dwell on it too much. We just need to know that, okay, if my BMI needs to be at a certain level, what can I do to put myself in the best position to get there? And if it is diet, great, let's look at it. If it is exercise, great, let's do some of that. But if it is something that's kind of just something's not right, and we can't seem to find the optimal approach, if we're doing everything diet wise, everything kind of exercise wise, maybe we need to look at stress, and we'll talk about that later. But the one thing is to not worry, just acknowledge that weight is a factor in fertility health. Okay. So exercise, another really key factor. Okay, now it's a little bit tricky, and you'll see on the last line here that we must be mindful of the intensity. I'll talk about that in a sec, guys. Okay, but broadly speaking, the Department of Health recommends 30 minutes of moderate exercise 5 times a week. Okay, and that can be really, really beneficial in terms of muscle mass, in terms of bone health, mental health, all those things, insulin resistance, all that jazz, helps to control blood sugars, and obviously can help with weight maintenance as well. But we need to be mindful that some forms of exercise in terms of the intensity, maybe kind of if we kind of think of HIIT classes in the gym, and we're kind of jumping up and down, and it's really, really intense, that actually stresses the body and may stress the body too much. So we absolutely need to exercise, but we just need to be mindful of the intensity of the exercise. So maybe it is that you're used to doing, I don't know, 100-meter sprints. For anyone out there that does 100-meter sprints, fair play to you, first of all. But let's look at maybe bringing that down to a more moderate walk, maybe less intense, and that can be really, really helpful for the fertility health. So if you're an individual who doesn't exercise, yes, absolutely, we need to exercise. And if you're an individual who exercises a lot and to a really high intense rate, then we might need to look at just reducing that down a little bit. But broadly speaking, exercise absolutely key in fertility health. Can assist there in, you can see in the fourth line, hormone regulation for women, and sperm health and production in males. Okay. Stress, guys, the fourth factor there that contributes, I suppose, to our fertility health. Now, this is a really, really key component, and I think we all should acknowledge the impact that stress can have, both kind of on our overall health, but fertility health in particular. Okay, so emotional, physical, whatever you want to call it, it can disrupt the hormones a lot. Okay, and I think it's really important that we acknowledge, okay, right, what is the level of stress that's in my life, and how can I manage that? When we're thinking about our fertility health, if we are really, really, really stressed, that can obviously cause us to be hormonally out of key, which will affect maybe ovulation, which may affect kind of the menstruation, the frequency, all that jazz. It can affect kind of our sperm quality as well. So we just need to be very, very mindful. And everyone has a different, I suppose, they kind of acknowledge stress in different ways. Stress can mean something totally different to another person, but what we must do is put strategies in place to be able to reduce our stress. Okay, a lot of people these days anyway do kind of the yoga, that's the trendy one these days. Breathing exercises, really important, better sleep, we can read, whatever we need to do to reduce our stress. just from a, I suppose, dietetic perspective and what I see in clinic, obviously this can be an absolutely vicious cycle in terms of the food aspect and stress. So when we're stressed, a lot of people tend to actually gain comfort from food. And then maybe if we make the wrong choices with the food, we become even more stressed. So it's stress on top of poor food choices on top of stress, which equals obviously not very optimal fertility health. That is something, guys, that absolutely needs to be kind of delved or looked at, I suppose, at a deeper level. And that's where I suppose I can assist. But if we can at all, we need to put some form of stress management in place to reduce that stress eating or the reliance on food there. And it is a very big problem at the minute, but we can put strategies in place. Okay, so we've hit the exercise, we've hit the weight, we've hit the stress, and now to the most important component. Okay, so research does suggest that the Mediterranean diet is the optimal approach. Many of you probably have heard of it, and it basically is the most colorful diet that you will see. Okay, and when I say diet, I mean the food that we eat, not a restrictive method. Okay, so if we look at what a Mediterranean diet is composed of, lots of fruits, lots of veggies, whole grains, beans, kind of legumes, lentils, chickpeas, all that jazz, low fat or fat-free dairy products, fish, poultry, olive oil, seeds, nuts. Just on that one, guys, low fat or fat-free, that is quite topical at the moment. Huge debate, obviously natural versus unnatural. So when I say natural, something that is kind of minimally processed versus unnatural, which maybe has a little bit more kind of processing done or additives. But we're trying to acknowledge, is it the better approach to take full fat dairy when it's higher in saturated fat, or is it better to kind of reduce that saturated fat level and go for the fat-free product, even though we're taking a hit with the additives? And the research out there at the moment is for the low-fat versions, and I suppose until kind of proven otherwise, that's what we'll go with. It is very individual, though. Again, it does depend on the person. The bottom one there, guys, added sugars and kind of, I suppose, processed foods, saturated fats, loads and loads and loads of it around these days. We cannot go through our day unless we kind of hibernate without seeing some form of food that is kind of in this bracket. Okay, it is just, I suppose, completely the opposite of what we want our body to be what we want to be fueling our body with when we're looking at our fertility health. Okay, so all of these foods will be inflammatory causing. Okay, so they will lead to inflammation, and inflammation is something that we don't want when we're talking about our fertility health. Okay, so what are added sugars? Just basically kind of any sugar that has been added to a product during processing. It obviously excludes fruit. Okay, so fruit contains natural sugar in the form of fructose, same as milk, lactose. But this is something like a chocolate bar, something like a cake, it's something like kind of a bun, anything like that that has been kind of had sugar added to it. Believe it or not, these days we have breads and things like that that has sugar added to it. So we just need to be very, very mindful of those types of foods. Salt, again, very important to reduce. It's in loads and loads and loads of foods these days. We have it in breakfast cereals, we have it in processed meats, we have it in soups, sauces, all that kind of jazz. Refined carbohydrates are basically the white versions of carbohydrates, and sweets, for anyone that doesn't know what refined carbohydrates are, and saturated fat, kind of found in processed foods, found in takeaways. Some takeaways are better than others, obviously, and kind of ready-made meals, things like that. So why is it important? Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant question, I suppose, to answer. And these are the key components. Okay, so healthy fats are one of the most important nutrients. There's a slide later that kind of, I suppose, outlines it a bit better, guys. But healthy fats are pretty much a non-negotiable when it comes to fertility health. Really, really, really important in terms of egg quality, in terms of hormonal control, in terms of sperm quality. Really, really, really key. Okay, so we get healthy fats from our nuts, seeds, oily fish, avocados, olive oil, things like that. Now, there's a lot of people out there. I can, 20 times, 30 times a day, I get told that I don't like salmon, or I don't like mackerel, and I don't like oily fish. That is fine, guys, but if we're not getting in the oily fish, we need to get it in through other sources. And the nuts, seeds, olive oil, avocados are the main ones. It's low in saturated fat. So saturated fat, as I was saying there, it's pro-inflammatory. Okay, we don't want any inflammation, and we want to minimize, I suppose, the ultra processed foods, the fatty meats, the the butter and the kind of the really high fat foods. So when I say fatty meats, we're talking about kind of the salami, chorizo, the sausages, things like that. Anything lean, like the chicken, the turkey, the boring stuff, some would say, but I'd argue otherwise. We can chuck the spices on. They're the ones that we want to go for, as opposed to the foods high in saturated fats. Over there on the right hand side, then, okay, fiber. Fiber is absolutely an incredible component that we want to get in for overall health. Okay, so regardless of fertility health, but overall health in general, it's absolutely fantastic. Okay, but in terms of fertility health, really important in kind of the regulation of the satiety, so preventing those cravings for sugary foods, and the hormonal control. Okay, oats, phenomenal source. Barley, if you can get it or add it to things. And then obviously the easiest approach is the fruits, the veggies, the whole grains. Vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, we get those from pretty much as much color as we can, guys. Okay, so fruit, veg, seeds, olive oil, you can read it there. And then we want to be, I suppose, promoting the Mediterranean diet because it's low in salt. Okay, it's kind of more natural, the more natural approach, as opposed to what we are seeing at the moment. Okay, so in general, Mediterranean diet, brilliant for all of those bits and bobs there mentioned. Okay, so a lot of people, when we are kind of delving into our fertility health and trying to optimize that, we can actually uncover some other bits and bobs in terms of our overall health that we need to tackle. So it can kind of just benefit our overall health, be it physical or mental. Okay, so cholesterol can help manage cholesterol levels, blood pressure, it can help lower the blood pressure. It can help with our blood sugar regulation, which in turn can obviously help with our hormonal regulation, reducing the risk of diabetes. Okay, that's really important. Cardiovascular disease. Okay, so we have a reduced risk when we are looking at the Mediterranean diet. Dementia, Alzheimer's, again, reducing the risk, and we've lower the chance of developing some cancers. Now, obviously, there are outliers of this, guys. Okay, so overall, broadly speaking, we want to be looking at the Mediterranean diet. So in terms of our fertility health, just to focus in on it in a little more detail, I'll try not to bore you guys, okay, but the key components, you probably all have heard of them: carbohydrates, protein, healthy fats, and antioxidants. So if we look at it from a fertility health perspective, what do we want to be eating? Whole grain. Okay, so brown, that's the one that we want to go for. Okay, oats, brown rice, quinoa, that sort of stuff. Okay, how does it help us? Gives us loads of B vitamins, lots of fiber, iron, calcium, actually, believe it or not, guys. Okay, really important in terms of fertility health, and we can get those through our carbohydrates. And all of those can help reduce the inflammation. Okay, so you kind of see the common theme here with regards to the Mediterranean diet. It's very anti-inflammatory, and I suppose the most important approach for the fertility health aspect is anti-inflammatory. So yeah, egg quality, sperm health, absolutely optimizing that. If we are looking at our own diets, so for any of you sitting there listening to this, okay, and we're thinking about kind of our own diets, what we eat, approximately, this is just broadly speaking now, some individuals may benefit from less, some individuals may benefit from more. 50% of our diet should be composed of our carbohydrates. There is a fear of carbohydrates out there for some, but absolutely that is a total myth that we need to reduce our carbohydrate intake and completely omit them. In some people's cases, we do not. They are really key components. We just need to choose the right ones. Little top tip there, guys, bottom of the page: 6 grams of fiber per 100 grams of product. Okay, that's what we want to be going for. That obviously you can see there should be the other way around. It's not less than 6 grams, guys. Okay, it's actually 6 grams or more. All right, so just to keep you on your toes there this evening. But that's how we can kind of look at the product that we're buying and choose a high fiber option. Okay, so just to summarize, carbohydrates for fertility health, brown, whole grain, and that's the approach you want to take. Protein, unprocessed, easiest way to state it. Okay, numerous people coming in: breakfast, protein bar, excuse me, snack, protein yogurt, lunch, protein this, protein that. I hear protein 20 times in 20 seconds, and we need to just take a step back. Protein, absolutely essential, like essential for normal ovulation, cell growth, kind of just sperm health in general, and repairing of sperm. But we don't need to be looking for it in the wrong areas of the diet. Okay, we want to be trying to get the natural sources, and that can be plant-based, that can be animal-based. Obviously, there's a push towards plant-based these days, and that is absolutely fine. But if you are more into the animal-based in terms of kind of the chicken, turkey, beef, whatever it is that you want to go for, yes, please do have some of that. Okay, just be mindful. Again, the beef, the red meat does contain a little bit of saturated fat. So the recommendation is in and around 0.8 grams per kg body weight per day. Okay, you will probably feel a lot of people are promoting a lot more than that, unless you are doing a serious amount of training, or you are an athlete, or there is a certain kind of medical condition that requires you to have more. Please don't overdo it, guys. We're just literally peeing it down the drain. We're wasting our time. There's no need. Okay, there really isn't any need. But on the other hand, I am seeing a lot of individuals where we're actually not getting enough protein either. So we kind of need to meet in the middle. If you're someone that has a really, really poor protein intake and you really dislike kind of the main protein sources, and the only option is for you at that time, the kind of artificial protein, like the protein bars, like the protein yogurts, okay, that's grand. That's the situation that you're in. But if you're in a position where you're okay and you tolerate chicken, turkey, kind of lean beef, whatever it is, beans, lentils, chickpeas, try and get it in through the whole foods approach. It is much better for the fertility health in terms of reducing those additives. Okay, on to healthy fats, and then I'll hit the antioxidants, and then I will speed up, guys. Okay, so healthy fats, said it earlier, non-negotiable when it comes to the fertility health. Now, we get scared sometimes when we see fat, especially in clinic. Get a lot of women coming in saying that they have completely reduced their fat intake because they're trying to cut calories, because they're trying to drop weight, because they need to get to a certain BMI for their I suppose, fertility treatment. We don't want to be doing that, okay? So we don't want to be compromising our nutrient intake to cut calories. It's absolutely going to go against what we're trying to achieve in the long run. So healthy fats are really, really, really important. And we just want to be making sure that they are unsaturated, okay? So oily fish, nuts, seeds, avocado, olives, olive oil, and really, really important, as I said, ovulation, okay? Normal ovulation, cell growth and repair. 20 to 35% of our intake should come from healthy fats. Okay. Now, if we go through, say, 10 people came into the clinic, 9 people out of those 10 people would not be consuming enough healthy fats in their diet. It is just something that I suppose maybe it's not in the natural kind of Irish traditional diet, and that's okay. But when we're talking about fertility health and we're trying to optimize that, well, then let's change things around. Let's actively get in some form of healthy fats. Now, I'm aware the nuts, the seeds, the avocado, the olives can sound a little bit flashy, can sound maybe a little bit exotic. That's okay. We can work with it. You know, we can mask it. We can do our best to kind of, I suppose, work with your preferences. And that's the beauty of I suppose, being a dietitian. We can adapt. Okay, so onto the antioxidants then, guys. This is basically what we need to promote. Yeah, or to stop, I should say, to stop inflammation. Okay, we do not want inflammation in our body from a fertility health perspective, but also in general. Kind of, it can affect joints and it can affect kind of our mental health and things like that. We need to prevent that cell damage, and that's what we do with antioxidants. So loads of fruit, veggies, nuts, seeds, herbs and spices. The latter there, guys, is one that we often forget about, herbs and spices. Now, you don't need to literally be gulping down the water and be overheating with the amount of spice you put into things. It's just, yeah, to acknowledge that there are certain spices that aren't actually hot, okay? When we're talking about turmeric, when we're talking about kind of things like that, cloves, and these are spices that are really, really beneficial in terms of, I suppose, yeah, getting that inflammation down, keeping our body at a level where it is kind of less inflamed, and it has the ability to ovulate properly, to produce the good quality sperm and things like that. So yeah, if we can, just as much variety as possible throughout the day. And we're all busy. We don't want to be going to the shops every kind of 5 minutes, and we don't want to be having to kind of make a million things. But at the same time, if we are trying to optimize the fertility health, then variation is needed. So there's just some compromise that has to be done there, guys. Okay, so this is the table I was talking about earlier. Key nutrients for fertility health. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I really don't, guys. Okay, so I just want you to look at the left-hand side there where it says nutrient. Okay, so we have a couple of key nutrients. You're probably familiar with them all, but I'll go through them anyway. Folic acid, okay, B vitamins, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D. Department of Health are big into that one these days, okay, in terms of supplementation. Then we have the antioxidants and iron and calcium. Okay, so these are kind of the ones that we really, really want to focus on. So folic acid for regular ovulation and healthy sperm, and you can see all the food sources over there. Despite this, though, all women of childbearing age should take a supplement, guys, of the folic acid. Okay, so about 400 micrograms a day, depending on kind of what age we are, but in and around that is the magic number. And obviously, we want to be promoting as much folate in our diet through the food sources there on the right-hand side. The B vitamins, this is one that we tend to get most of through a healthy balanced diet anyway. We often don't need to supplement. It's in quite a lot of foods, and it's really just really important in terms of the quality of the sperm and the eggs. Meat, cereals, eggs, dairy, whole grain, nuts, seeds, pretty much what I've said there in terms of what a Mediterranean diet is. Onto the omega-3 fatty acids. This is a key one for those who don't eat fish, and it's becoming more and more apparent, although we're an island, that we really don't like fish in this country. So we should take a supplement if we are not big into our oily fish. So that's salmon, kind of herring, mackerel, those types of ones. Because as you can see, it is really important. All right, so insulin metabolism. Okay, I was talking about insulin resistance there, insulin sensitivity earlier. We need to be mindful of that. Healthy eggs, improved sperm count, motility, and quality. Okay, so basically how sperm are made up, its composition, and how it can kind of swim around there. Okay, it's really important, need to be nice and strong, and that's what the omega-3 fatty acids will do. Plant-based, okay, so we can kind of convert our plant-based oils into omega-3 fatty acids, okay, so ALAs into the version that we want them in, but ideally we would want to go and get some form of oily fish or else supplement. Onto the vitamin D, Department of Health recommends that we all actually supplement with the vitamin D between kind of Halloween and Paddy's Day, guys, okay, so around 15 micrograms, because unlike the absolutely mega weather that we're getting for the next week and the past week, we don't really get the sun, okay. Obviously, hopefully it does change and continue on like this, but we don't often get the sun, and the sun is the main kind of form of our main source of vitamin D, believe it or not. Okay, so we need it for just general health and obviously the kind of sperm quality and overall fertility health. We can get it from primarily animal-based sources. Okay, so you can see there meat, eggs, offal. Obviously, if we have an issue with cholesterol, it's going to be tricky when we're trying to promote eating meat, eggs, and offal. So that's where, again, a trip to the dietitian or a little bit of a chat might be helpful. Okay, we do have a lot of foods that are fortified with vitamin D these days, which does help, but still we need to supplement. Antioxidants, guys, what I was just talking about on the previous page, basically a whole heap of color, definitely needed. Then we have the iron and the calcium. So for anyone who has kind of a family history of the iron, it would be no harm to have a look at the bloods and see if we are in that same boat. And if we are, we need to supplement. Same goes for calcium. Okay, so really important in terms of, yeah, healthy sperm, healthy eggs, egg production, all that jazz. You can see there iron and calcium, the sources. Calcium sources, if we're not into dairy or if we're intolerant, dark green leafy veg, fish, again with the tinned fish with the little bones, and then sesame seeds. And for anyone who knows me, they know that I love tahini, which is basically a sesame seed paste, but I just love it because it can be incorporated into so many different foods. Okay, so we can basically mask it if we don't like the flavor. All right, so key nutrients for fertility health, they are the ones, guys. All right. So now on to, yeah, the foods that we may consume too much of, but we want to try and minimize, okay? We're probably all consuming a couple of these or maybe not, and fair play if you're not, but we just want to be mindful when we're talking fertility health, okay? So alcohol, if we look at the recommendations or kind of the guidelines, ideally less is better, but especially coming into barbecue weather, I like to call it. We might have one or two alcoholic beverages, okay? We do need to minimize these, all right? Absolutely aware that we have to be realistic and life is for living, but at the same time, too much alcohol can hinder the fertility health, okay? So 11 standard drinks for women, 17 for men. You can see below there, standard drink, half a pint of beer, small glass of wine, very small, guys, kind of 125 mils, 100 to 125 mils. Sometimes we would get double that, okay, as in a glass, and then a single measure of spirits. All right, so ideally the less the better, but just be mindful of the current guidelines. Caffeine then. So caffeine, yeah, it's a common one. Again, it's quite topical. It is advised to limit it. We can choose the decaffeinated version, but again, you have that argument, like the process of removing the caffeine, is that going to hinder us? Is it not? Let's just try and reduce kind of the caffeine and overall kind of, I suppose, those decaf beverages in general. It's probably the easiest approach. But if you're a real coffee lover and you're just struggling, let's just bring it down to kind of less than 200 milligrams a day. So that's kind of your 2 regular coffees. If we're tea lovers, 4 cups of tea gets you 200 milligrams. Okay, so we can kind of bring it down to that level. And if we're really looking to kind of promote fertility health and want to go with the healthier options, kind of herbal teas, chicory drink is a great one as a coffee replacement if anyone is really struggling with that. But overall, reducing our caffeine can greatly, I suppose, optimize our fertility health. Added sugar, okay, another one that we need to be mindful of, and again, it is in a lot of foods, but it's probably the one that I'm seeing cause the most hassle in clinic these days, particularly with women in terms of insulin resistance. And obviously then it does have a direct impact on the weight management if we're over consuming. Okay, so added sugar, it just needs to come down. It really does. It will absolutely promote inflammation, which will cause other issues. But when we consume added sugar in excess, it can affect kind of how we view foods. It can affect how we feel after foods, which will affect our next kind of food choices. So it has a knock-on effect on everything. So we need to kind of keep it to the WHO, kind of World Health Organization recommends no more than 5% of kind of our total daily calories. So 7 teaspoons, okay, we think of 7 teaspoons, we're like, no way do we get that in, okay? If I put the amount of sugar that's in all our foods, guys, that we don't actually add ourselves, but it's just in our food these days, we'll definitely get easily the 7 teaspoons. We just need to be very mindful of that. On the back of the packets, top tip, less than 5 grams of sugar per 100 gram of the product. That's considered a low sugar product. And yogurts are probably the one kind of the most commonly asked questions with regards to sugar. Breakfast cereals as well. So have a little look at that if you're struggling in terms of the sugar. A lot of people these days, I'll try to kind of keep it real brief, but it's a huge issue these days in terms of the sugar cravings. We're experiencing sugar cravings. We don't know how to deal with it. The 9 times out of 10, we need to balance our meals better. So we need to add more protein. We need to add more healthy fats to our meals, and that blunts the kind of response. The hunger levels are a little bit more consistent, and we don't get those sugar cravings, so we won't consume as much sugar. If that is an issue, again, guys, feel free to contact me after, or to kind of look it up and just optimize your diet in a little bit more detail, because it can be quite debilitating at times for some individuals. Okay, ultra-processed foods and salt. Ultra-processed foods are basically mass-produced foods. Okay, so you'll know them, the kind of ready-made noodles, the packet sauces, the processed meats, the biscuits, the cakes, the goodies. We want to be very kind of, I suppose, mindful of how much of these we're consuming, because all those additives can contribute to kind of poorer fertility health. Salt, really important in terms of blood pressure, which can have a knock-on effect on our fertility health as well. So no more than 1 teaspoon of salt a day. And you can see there kind of a low salt, medium salt, and a high salt product. Ideally, we want to be going for 0.3 grams or less per 100 grams of the product. Now, I don't want to be throwing out all these figures, guys, so please don't get overwhelmed about it, but it just can be a little bit of a kind of important component if you are concerned about a certain product containing too much salt, too much sugar. Just use those figures there. But broadly speaking, we want to try and use the herbs and spices instead. Okay, so just to touch on the supplements and fertility health, again, hugely individual. So obviously in a clinic consultation, you'll get a lot more info, but the kind of broad ones that I was talking about earlier are the vitamin D and the folic acid. We generally need to supplement with those. Omega-3 if we don't eat fish, and as I was saying, if we have a history of anemia in the family, iron, and then also if we kind of a history of osteoporosis or anything like that, calcium supplement would be beneficial. But big believer, absolutely massive believer of food first approach. Totally aware certain people have kind of likes, dislikes, intolerances that don't allow them to consume foods that have these nutrients in them. But if we can at all, the food first approach is the way we want to go, aside from obviously the vitamin D and the folic acid are the ones that we just have to take if we're a women of childbearing age, and the vitamin D in that kind of area or time of year. Okay, so just to touch on, I've two little kind of things that I want to touch on next in the next 2 slides, and I will go through them quite briefly, but just to say there's a lot of in-depth stuff that we need to consider with these conditions. So endometriosis and PCOS, if you are an individual who suffers from either, firstly, diet can greatly help manage those conditions. It's not to say that it solves those conditions. It absolutely doesn't, but it can help manage kind of the symptoms that you're experiencing. Okay, so it is quite common in terms of PCOS. All right, so about 6 to 13% women of reproductive age have the PCOS. Okay, and we can't cure it, but we can manage it. Okay, and the main kind of dietary tips are balanced meals. Okay, really important. I find with those who have PCOS coming to the clinic, it's carb heavy diets, really carb heavy diets, craving the sugar, having so much sugar, not eating throughout the day because we're trying to just be mindful of what we're consuming. Maybe we're trying to lose weight, maybe we're trying to I don't know, reduce the fat intake, and then all of a sudden at nighttime we're kind of raiding the cupboards, we're just eating all around us. That is because we're not balancing our meals. Okay, so when we balance our meals, we have a more consistent blood sugar level, which means that our hormones are better controlled. And in PCOS, it's a hormonal disorder. Okay, so it's our hormones that we need to manage. And if we can't manage them, we need to look at our diet. Okay, our diet plays a key role in that. So more protein, healthy fats, add the antioxidants, cinnamon, turmeric, flax seeds, superb. Okay, so cinnamon is brilliant in terms of that kind of blood sugar regulation, really important. If you want to chuck it into kind of overnight oats, if you want to pop it on, I don't know, fruit salad, whatever it is you want to do, and there may be cinnamon haters out there, and that's absolutely fine as well. You can mask it. It's hard to mask, harder than turmeric or something like that, but it can be done. Okay, so if we think about these, right, I love to think about it like our food is our most basic form of medication. I say it numerous times a day. I absolutely firmly believe it. If we get in the foods that our body loves and thrives off, we will likely have to take less medication. Now, obviously, that's very individual and it's kind of a broad statement. But as a dietitian, we're seeing individuals coming in who are basically we're not giving the diet a good go in terms of adding all these nutrients, adding all these kind of different sprinklings of seeds, of nuts, of whatever it is. And how can we expect kind of to get the results when we haven't really fully immersed ourselves in what a healthy diet should be? Okay, so hit the antioxidants and then obviously the supplementation if necessary. So endometriosis then, again, there is a bit of a kind of management strategy that we want to go through, but it is quite similar to what we want to do just in general for fertility health. Okay, but endometriosis, a lot of inflammation. Okay, we want to just reduce that big time. And then there may be kind of, I suppose, bowel issues that we need to be mindful of. So maybe it's fiber we need to reduce, increase. It's quite independent, but we'll go through 1 to 8 there. Okay, so you can see lots of fruit, veggies, plenty of fiber. For some individuals, it has to be reduced. The gut health is one that I haven't touched on, but really important in terms of kind of the endometriosis piece. Often, if we are thinking about endometriosis, we're thinking kind of our insides are a little bit red, a little bit inflamed, and the gut is just crying out for something soothing. Okay, so if you kind of think about it, we want to be promoting the probiotics, which is going to soothe our gut. We get probiotics from kind of sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha, tempeh, miso, all these things that you probably think are very exotic foods and would taste horrific, but believe it or not, they're readily available and they're actually fine. Okay, yogurt is probably the most common, the most normal, we'll say, of the probiotic foods, But yeah, I would say if you can, step outside your comfort zone and try some of the probiotics, and they will really, really help you in terms of a food first approach. There are ones that we can take, obviously, that are, we'll say, kind of over the counter ones in the chemist, but we want to focus on food first. Anti-inflammatory foods, like I was talking about on the other slides, basically a whole heap of color. Random one here, guys, but actually really important. We don't need to get over the top about it, but there is no denying it that the packaging in some of our foods these days does contain or likely contain some toxins. So, and the kind of pesticides used may hinder fertility health. And I don't like saying it, but we just have to acknowledge it. Sometimes that may be a consideration, and let's just try and reduce kind of those that are entering our body, and just wash our foods well, and just be mindful of buying packaged foods, which seems impossible these days because it is quite difficult. Number 7, supplement with vitamin D. Yes, I've said that. And 8, we all know, and we just need to be aware of. Okay, so just to give everyone a kind of indication of what I see on a daily basis with regards to those coming in looking to optimize their fertility health, what I'm seeing is, yeah, I'm going to give you literally 10 seconds here of silence just to look through this and see what comes out in your heads. Okay, so just have a little look. Okay, so probably not enough time, okay? But anyway, I just wanted you to look, and I'm hoping that a couple of alarm bells has kind of popped off in people's heads in terms of processed foods. Oh my goodness, a bit of added sugar there in the bickies. We're getting the processed meats. We're getting the tea. We've got a couple of sugars going on here into the tea. Then we have a bit of butter and jam with the plain scone. It all looks actually quite nice, quite nice. But is it going to promote our fertility health and general health? Absolutely not. Okay. All about balance in terms of working as a dietitian. Hugely believe in balance. Okay, so I'm not here to say we can never have the bickies, we can never have the chips, we can never have the bar of chocolate. Of course we can, but let's be mindful of it, and let's see how can we kind of reduce it, and how can we, I suppose, optimize our fertility health whilst also being realistic. Because what we don't want to do is have complete omission, get rid of all these foods, and then find ourselves with a negative relationship with food, which can be a tricky thing to solve. Okay, so the white toast with the butter, I'll just go through one or two here, okay? I won't go through the whole thing, just time-wise. But if we think about the white toast butter, the caffeinated tea, the full-fat milk, and the 2 sugars, okay? What I would suggest is, depending on the person and what they feel they're comfortable doing, the sugar is obviously the kind of key component there that I would like to reduce. I'd like to get a bit more fiber in with kind of brown toast maybe, or a seeded toast. Butter, depending on the person and their background, their kind of family history of high cholesterol or things like that, we would potentially change to a plant-based alternative. Would see the caffeinated tea, decaf if we could, or an alternative like a herbal tea. That's what I would do with the breakfast. But if there was a person who came in and it was just impossible for them to do that, that's okay. Going from white toast with butter, 2 slices, caffeinated tea with full-fat milk and 2 sugars, to just the exact same but 1 sugar in the tea would be a bonus. Okay, so we don't have to go for kind of the optimal. We don't have to kind of try to do everything all at once. It's absolutely unrealistic for the majority of us. Let's just try and make one small change and do it consistently. Okay, so if you look down through all of that, you'll probably be able to kind of make your own little suggestions with regards to changes. The sausages, the chips, the beans. Sausages, can we have plainer meat on one day? Chips, okay, are we getting them from the kind of freezer section of the supermarket? Maybe we can oven bake them instead of deep frying them. Maybe we can make our own. The beans, are they no added sugar? If they're no added sugar, do they have additives in them? If they have additives in them, okay, well, maybe we just have to go for it because I'm busy today, and that's just that. Okay, so let's be realistic about it, guys, but this is just what I see on a typical day, and small changes definitely do need to be made because this is high in sugar, high in saturated fat, and very inflammatory. So this is in an ideal world, and absolutely, I'm well aware that there are probably individuals bursting out laughing here saying that they'll never eat hummus in their lives, and that is okay. I am not here to ask anyone to eat anything if they don't want to, but I'll just tell you why I've made up this this sample plan, okay? Because it is based on the Mediterranean diet. It is high in fiber, it's high in lean protein. Obviously, if you want to go plant-based, you can. So if you don't want the turkey salad sandwich there for lunch, you can have a lentil salad sandwich. Do you know, there's always alternatives. But what I would like to kind of point out is the approach. Okay, it's a regular eating pattern. Coming back to the fertility health and promoting hormonal kind of control. If we have a sporadic eating pattern and we're kind of fasting for long periods of time and then we're eating a whole heap at once, it throws the blood sugar levels off, which will throw the hormones off as well. Okay, so if we can, a regular eating pattern, you'll see there, it doesn't have to be cold breakfast. It doesn't have to be 6 meals, 5 meals, whatever it is, just some sort of structured approach that we can follow. Okay, we want to try and think about the kind of meals and the snacks as opportunities to fuel the body. Okay, so you'll see there kind of the two snacks. All right, so I have a snack there of a yogurt, a piece of fruit, and then I have the oatcakes and hummus. All right, so generally, depending on the person, want to get in some form of calcium and protein and a little bit of antioxidants. So that's where the yogurt and the fruit comes in. And then in the afternoon, generally that's when we kind of take a dip, and we're often looking for the sugar. And if we popped in something that was high in sugar, be it natural or kind of processed, we would likely crave more sugar. So I tend to go for a higher protein or a higher fat based snack at that time, like the hummus there. Dinner, you got the baked salmon, everyone's favorite, with the broccoli, the green beans, and the sweet potato. But you could equally go with baked chicken, turnip, and regular potato, or you can pop in the pasta with the cod and whatever it is, a passata or something like that. There's loads of kind of opportunity to mix and match with this. It's just suiting your own preferences. That's kind of the key approach here. Okay, so this is an ideal world, guys. If you can make any changes, that is fantastic. It's not only going to benefit your fertility health, but also general health, you know, kind of 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. If you get up off the seat and you're feeling kind of the back ache, or if you fall over and you're breaking the hip or whatever it is, we don't want that, you know. We want to promote longevity, and this can really help with that also. So take home messages, guys. I will stop talking in a couple of seconds there, just to kind of go over it. These are the kind of main take homes, and if you can take home one of them, fantastic. If you can take home more, even better. But don't kind of push yourself too much too soon. Yeah, okay, we do want to adopt a Mediterranean diet. Take one component out of it, take one piece out of it, and try and work on that. If it's to add in like a sprinkle of seeds on top of a meal once a week for the next 5 weeks, grand, let's do that. Okay, reduce the processed food. 2 liters of water. Water, really important. Hydration is absolutely key as well. That's kind of the minimum I would recommend these days in terms of water. That does depend on your activity, and also males may require a little bit more. Reduce the caffeine, limit the alcohol. If possible, don't smoke, take drugs. Exercise regularly within the correct intensity. And then the sleep as well. Aware there's a lot of factors that can affect loads of these guys, but if we can, in an ideal world, it's the 6 to 8 hours of sleep per night. So I hope that kind of went through or answered a couple of anyone's questions there with regards to fertility health. But I will just shoot it back to Katie. And if anyone has any questions that I would like to, or you would like me to answer over the next couple of minutes, feel free. If not, please, guys, one little change to your nutrition, be it for fertility health reasons or overall health. That's what we want to spread, and kind of the world will be a better place with a healthier diet.